My wife told me I was being insecure when I said I didn't trust her coworker. That night, I caught them having dinner together. He smirked and said, "She needs a man who's not afraid of competition." I laid him out cold with one punch, dropped my wedding ring into her drink, and walked out without looking back. I'm Mark, 38, and my wife, Sarah, is 35. We've been married for 10 years, living in a cozy apartment in Lincoln Park, Chicago. Our life together has had its ups and downs, but I always believed we had a strong foundation built on trust and mutual respect. That belief was shattered recently. Sarah works at a marketing firm downtown. A few months ago, she started mentioning a new coworker, Brian. At first, it was casual comments about his innovative ideas and how he was shaking things up at the office. I didn't think much of it. After all, it's normal to talk about work at home. But as weeks went by, her mentions of Brian became more frequent and animated. She'd often relay his witty remarks or praise his creative strategies. I noticed a spark in her eyes when she talked about him, a spark that used to be reserved for our conversations. One evening, as we were having dinner, she brought him up again. "Brian suggested this new strategy today," she said, her face lighting up. "It's brilliant. I think it could really boost our campaign." I nodded, trying to be supportive. "Sounds like he's a smart guy." She smiled, but there was a subtle shift in her demeanor. "Isn't that a good thing?" "Of course," I replied, forcing a smile. But the nagging feeling in my gut grew stronger. Then came the late nights. Sarah began staying late at the office more frequently, always with the excuse of working on the big campaign with Brian. She'd text me around 6 p.m., saying they were brainstorming and that she wouldn't be home for dinner. I wanted to be the trusting husband, so I didn't press her. But the seed of doubt had been planted. One Friday night, she came home around midnight, smelling of wine. "We wrapped up the project tonight," she said, kicking off her heels. "Brian and I went out for a drink to celebrate." I tried to hide my irritation. "You could have let me know. I was worried." She sighed, clearly annoyed. "Mark, I'm an adult. I don't need to check in with you every time I make a move." That stung. "It's not about checking in. It's about common courtesy." She rolled her eyes. "You're being insecure. Brian is just a coworker. There's nothing going on." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the unease lingered. The following week, I decided to address it directly. One evening, as we were getting ready for bed, I said, "Sarah, can we talk?" She looked up from her phone, a hint of impatience on her face. "Sure. What's up?" "It's about Brian," I began, choosing my words carefully. "I feel like you've been spending a lot of time with him lately. The late nights, the way you talk about him. It's making me uncomfortable." She put her phone down and crossed her arms. "Mark, we've been over this. Brian is just a friend and coworker. You're reading too much into it." "Am I?" I pressed. "Because it feels like there's more to it." She sighed, exasperated. "I can't believe this. You're being ridiculous. I married you, not Brian. Trust me." I nodded, not wanting to escalate the situation. "Okay, I trust you." But deep down, the doubt remained. A few days later, I had to work late myself. Around 9 p.m., I decided to grab a bite before heading home. There's this little Italian place, Giovanni's, not too far from my office in the West Loop. It's a cozy spot with dim lighting and checkered tablecloths, a place Sarah and I used to frequent. As I walked in, the familiar aroma of garlic and marinara sauce filled the air. I glanced around, and my heart stopped. There, in a secluded corner, sat Sarah and Brian. They were leaning in close, sharing a bottle of wine, completely engrossed in each other. She laughed at something he said, touching his arm lightly. A surge of emotions flooded me. Anger, betrayal, heartbreak. I felt like the ground had been pulled from under me. Taking a deep breath, I approached their table. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady but cold. Her eyes widened in shock. "Mark, what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," I replied, my gaze shifting to Brian. He leaned back in his chair, a smug smile playing on his lips. "Relax, man," Brian said, his tone dripping with condescension. "We're just having dinner. Nothing to get worked up about." I clenched my fists, struggling to keep my composure. "Just dinner? After all the late nights and secrecy? You expect me to believe that?" Sarah reached out, trying to touch my arm. "Mark, please. Let's talk about this at home." But Brian couldn't resist adding fuel to the fire. Maybe Sarah needs a man who's not afraid of a little competition. That was it. Without thinking, I swung. My fist connected with his jaw, sending him sprawling to the floor. The restaurant fell silent, all eyes on us. I turned to Sarah, removed my wedding ring, and dropped it into her wine glass. The clink of metal against glass echoed in the quiet room. "We're done," I said, my voice breaking. I hope he was worth it. Without waiting for a response, I walked out, not looking back. The days that followed were a blur. Sarah tried calling, texting, even showed up at my office, but I couldn't face her. I packed a bag and stayed with my brother in Wicker Park for a while. The betrayal cut deep, and I needed time to heal. Looking back, there were signs. Signs I chose to ignore because I trusted her, because I loved her. But trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. To anyone reading this, trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't let anyone make you feel insecure for voicing your concerns. You deserve honesty and respect in a relationship. As for me, I'm taking it one day at a time. The pain is still fresh, But I'm hopeful that with time, I'll find someone who values and respects me for who I am. 2 weeks passed after the night at Giovanni's. I hadn't spoken a word to Sarah. I ignored every call, every text. My brother, Dan, tried to get me to open up, but I couldn't even look him in the eye. The only people I could stand were my coworkers, because none of them asked questions. They just nodded, handed me coffee, and let me be. Then Sarah showed up at my job. It was just after lunch. I came back from a walk and there she was, standing by the elevators like she still belonged in my life. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged. Her hair was tied back like she hadn't slept. She looked like she was unraveling. But I didn't care. We need to talk, she said, blocking my path. No, we really don't, I replied. Mark, just 5 minutes. Please. I stared at her for a moment. I should have walked away. I should have told her to go to hell. But instead, I nodded. I don't know why. Curiosity? Closure? Stupidity? We stepped into the small side lobby near the parking garage. No one around. She looked around like she was about to confess to murder. It's not what you think, she started. Really? I laughed. Because from where I was standing, it looked pretty damn clear. Yes, we had dinner. Yes, it was wrong. But I didn't sleep with him. I didn't say anything. I was confused. Okay, she continued. I've been feeling lost lately. You've been distant too. Don't, I said sharply. Don't you dare try to spin this on me. She bit her lip. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying, everything's been off. I made a mistake. A huge one. But that night, after you left, I told him it was over. I realized what I was about to lose. You already lost it, I said. And the way he smirked at me? The way he said what he said? That wasn't a mistake. That was disrespect. I didn't know he'd say that, she whispered. I was angry at him too. I shook my head. You defended him. You gaslight me. You told me I was insecure when I was right the whole damn time. She broke down crying, right there in the lobby. I stood like a statue. I didn't move. I didn't feel sorry for her. That night, I blocked her number. But the story wasn't over. 3 days later, Dan came home from work with a weird look on his face. He works IT for a downtown company. He knows people. He hears things. You're not gonna believe this, he said. Brian? He got fired. What? Apparently, someone reported him. HR got involved. There were messages. Screenshots. Turns out he'd been mentoring more than one female coworker. I sat back, letting that sink in. So he's a serial creep? Looks like it. I heard Sarah got pulled into the investigation too. She's on leave. I didn't say anything, but my stomach turned. This wasn't about vindication. This was worse. Now I was wondering, how deep was she in this? Was she one of many? Did he manipulate her too? A few days later, I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address, but the handwriting was familiar. I knew it was from her. I let it sit on the table for 3 days before I opened it. Inside, she wrote pages. Apologies, explanations. She said Brian had been charming at first, helpful, confident. Said she got swept up in the excitement. Said he told her she was wasting her life playing wife, that she deserved more. Said she started doubting everything. Us. Herself. Her choices. And then, near the bottom, she wrote something I didn't expect. I'm pregnant. I don't know if it's yours. I dropped the letter. Everything around me went quiet. My brain tried to process the words, but they just echoed like a drum. Pregnant. Might not be mine. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went straight to my lawyer. I needed to protect myself. I needed answers. I needed truth. Not from her, not anymore, but from a test, from facts, from cold, hard reality. Sarah tried reaching out again. This time, I answered. I read your letter, I said flatly. I figured you would. So, is that why you came to my job? Was that your plan? To drop the bomb and hope I'd take you back? No, she said, her voice shaking. I found out after. I didn't even think it was possible. But I swear, Mark, I don't know who the father is. I'm not asking you to raise the baby. I'm not asking for anything. I just thought you should know. I was quiet for a long time. Are you keeping it? I don't know, she said. Everything's a mess. I nodded, though she couldn't see it. Get the test. Then we'll talk. And that's where things stand. Waiting, wondering, dreading. I didn't ask for this. I didn't deserve this. But here I am, caught in the middle of something I never thought would happen to me. And I don't know what I'm supposed to hope for now. 3 weeks went by after that call. I didn't hear anything from Sarah. Not a word. I figured maybe she was making arrangements for the test, or maybe she was staying quiet because she finally understood I needed space. Then I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Mark? A man's voice said. Yeah. This is Chris. I'm Sarah's brother. We'd met a few times, always briefly. He lived in Denver and never visited much. She's in the hospital, he said. I thought you should know. I froze. What happened? She passed out at work. Dehydration, stress. Baby's fine, but she's been asking for you. I didn't know what to say. A part of me wanted to hang up. Another part, the part that still remembered the life we built, couldn't ignore the fact that she was carrying a child that could be mine. I went. The hospital was quiet when I got there. Chris was in the waiting room, pacing. When he saw me, he gave me a tired nod. Thanks for coming, he said. She's in room 212. I walked in, unsure what to expect. Sarah looked pale, thinner than before. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, but I didn't smile back. I didn't call you because I didn't want you to feel trapped, she said softly. I'm not here for you, I replied. I'm here for answers. She nodded. I've already arranged for the paternity test. The results should be back in a few days. I was about to leave when she stopped me. There's more. I turned slowly. I wasn't the one who reported Brian, she said. It was another girl, Amanda. She's 22. She was one of the interns. My stomach twisted. You knew about that? I found out after that dinner. Amanda came to me crying. She thought I was his girlfriend. I realized then he'd been saying the same things to her that he said to me. So he was playing you both. She nodded. And maybe more. He had a system. I was stupid. I wanted to feel wanted, and he saw that. I took a breath, trying to stay calm. And now you're carrying his kid. Maybe. She didn't respond. Just looked down at her hands. When I left the hospital, I sat in my car for an hour, thinking, not about her, but about the kid. If it was mine, what kind of life would it have? What kind of life could I give it? Then the twist came. The next morning, my lawyer called. Mark, he said, I got a notice in the mail this morning. Brian's filing harassment charges against you for the punch at Giovanni's. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. He waited weeks, I said. He's probably trying to use it to save face. His reputation's taken a hit. This might be leverage. So now I was in the middle of a potential paternity case and a legal fight with the same man who tried to wreck my marriage. But that wasn't even the worst part. Later that afternoon, I got another message, this time from Amanda. She found me through LinkedIn. I almost deleted the message until I saw the subject. Brian told me what he did to you. Inside, she wrote about how Brian bragged about destroying another marriage after Giovanni's. He'd even shown her a screenshot of him and Sarah from a text thread, joking about how some men break when you push the right button. She attached the screenshot. It was Sarah. He thinks he's so strong. Let's see how far he bends. That message was from before Giovanni's. She planned it. Not just the dinner. The whole thing. It hit me like a truck. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't some woman lost in emotions. This was intentional. And now, everything's changed. That baby might still be mine. But Sarah? She crossed a line I didn't even think was possible. 2 days later, the paternity results arrived. My lawyer called and asked if I wanted him to read them to me or send them directly. I told him to go ahead. It's yours, Mark, he said. There's no doubt. I sat down. My knees just gave out, and I ended up on the floor of my brother's apartment. I didn't say anything for a long time. A part of me had hoped it wasn't mine, not because I didn't want a child, but because that would have made everything simpler, cleaner. I could walk away from Sarah, from the mess, from all of it. But now I had blood in this. I didn't call Sarah. I didn't go to her. I needed to think. But the choice was ripped from my hands that same evening when she showed up at my brother's place. Then answered the door, saw her standing there, and just said, "You sure you want to do this?" to me. I nodded. She walked in like she still had a right to. She didn't. She sat on the edge of the couch, her hands shaking, eyes full of something between regret and panic. I saw the test results, she said. I did too, I replied. So what now? I want to talk. Everything. Please. One time. I nodded slowly. Dan grabbed his coat and muttered, "I'll give you 2 space," before stepping out. Silence. Then she spoke. "I knew I was losing you before Brian," she started. "It wasn't your fault. It was mine. I didn't know how to say it out loud. I was scared. You didn't lose me," I said. "You just weren't paying attention. You were too busy chasing a snake." "I didn't plan everything," she said, voice cracking. "The text, that message Amanda showed you. I said that because I was angry. You were always working. You were always distracted. Brian saw that and leaned into it. I didn't go into that dinner thinking I was going to betray you. I swear." "But you did," I said. "And you let him laugh at me. You let him throw words in my face while you watched." She stood up, pacing now, crying. "I hate him. I do. After you punched him, he mocked me. Called me stupid for catching feelings. He said I was just another bored housewife. I wanted to die that night. Then why didn't you come clean?" "Because I was ashamed," she shouted. "Because I thought if I gave you space, you'd cool down, and maybe we could—" "No," I cut her off. "You lost that chance when you made me feel like the crazy one. You gaslit me, Sarah. You let me doubt myself, my instincts. And for what? A little attention?" She collapsed into the chair, sobbing. "I ruined everything." "Yes," I said coldly. "But now you're pregnant. And that kid is mine. What do you want to do?" she whispered. "I'm going to be there for the child," I said. "Financially. As a father. But you and me? We're done. There's no fixing this." She broke completely. Chest heaving, shoulders shaking. And then the front door opened. It was Dan. But he wasn't alone. Amanda stepped in behind him. My eyes widened. "What the hell?" She reached out and said. Said she wanted to talk. "I didn't know you were here." Amanda's face was pale but determined. I needed to see her. I needed to say something. Sarah looked like she'd been slapped. "Why are you here?" Amanda's hands trembled. "To tell you the truth. Brian told me everything. He said you were just practice. That you were never the one. That he used you to see how far he could go before HR caught up. He said you were the easiest one to break." Sarah gasped, covering her mouth. "And you need to hear that," Amanda said. "So you stopped thinking any of this was real." Silence. Amanda turned to me. "I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this. I nodded. She left. Dan followed. Sarah sat there, silent. I didn't say anything for a long time. Then I stood up. I'll send paperwork from my lawyer, I said. Custody, support, the works. We'll keep it civil. But I don't ever want to see you again unless it's about the child. She nodded, unable to look at me. I walked out. 3 months later, Sarah gave birth. A baby boy. She named him Nolan. I wasn't there in the hospital room, but I saw him the next day. I held him, and something broke in me. Not pain, not rage. Something softer. Hope, maybe. I don't see Sarah. We communicate through a shared parenting app. Everything is documented. Everything is scheduled. No contact unless it's about Nolan. Dan told me one night that he sees a change in me. That I seem lighter. I think, he said, you needed to be broken so you could rebuild. Maybe he's right. What I've learned is this. Trust is fragile. Love isn't always enough. And sometimes, the people who swear they'll never hurt you are the ones who hurt you the worst. But pain doesn't define you. What you do next does. I'm not the same man I was before that night at Giovanni's. I'm not healed. But I'm healing. I'm not hoping for a second chance. I'm not waiting for karma. I've moved forward, one honest step at a time, with my son in my arms and no more lies in my life.